Na busca constante de pulsar conhecimento, a PUC Goiás encontra a sua essência. As veias desse organismo vivo se integram com histórias do agora e do futuro. Ensino, aprendizado e trabalho caminhando juntos para fazer a universidade que somos e seremos. São 62 anos de experiências memoráveis, sonhos realizados e vidas completamente transformadas. Uma estrutura viva, pulsante e inovadora, que faz da experiência de ser PUC uma jornada inspiradora. Juntos, abrimos novas oportunidades para fazer do presente o que queremos para o nosso futuro. Um futuro de caminhos carregados de sonhos que só vamos desbravar graças a cada um de vocês. Por isso, obrigada por fazer parte dessa grande história. PUC Goiás, 62 anos. O vislumbre do futuro, a experiência do presente.
O que fazer enquanto busco o tão sonhado diploma de curso superior? Passar em branco ou fazer a diferença? Viver só no seu quadrado ou explorar outros pontos de vista? Deixar que os outros falem por você ou defender o que você acredita? Esperar pelo futuro ou viver o presente ao máximo? Na PUC, você pode muito mais, porque a PUC não garante só um diploma de renome no mundo todo, mas um mundo de possibilidades ao longo da jornada. Viva a experiência de ser PUC. Escolha sua forma de ingresso e faça o seu caminho numa universidade completa, com mais de 60 anos de tradição e as melhores avaliações no MEC. PUC Goiás, uma experiência de vida.
Olá, eu sou a professora Olga Ronque, reitora da Pontifícia Universidade Católica de Goiás. Este ano, nossa instituição celebra 62 anos de história. Para comemorar essa data tão significativa, nós estamos promovendo durante esta semana 2 grandes eventos tradicionais da nossa PUC. A 14ª Jornada da Cidadania e o 7º Congresso de Ciência, Tecnologia e Inovação. A programação é extensa, de qualidade e traz para nós os 2 pilares importantes na formação acadêmica desta universidade: a pesquisa e a extensão. Celebramos, portanto, os 62 anos da PUC com ciência, com tecnologia, com inovação e com cidadania. Espero que você aproveite ao máximo a extensa programação à disposição. Só entrar no site e poder navegar e ali você vai encontrar um mundo de oportunidades enriquecedoras para a comunidade da PUC Goiás, mas também para a comunidade externa. Venha conosco celebrar esse momento tão grandioso e tão importante para a vida da ciência, para a vida da pesquisa, para a vida da extensão e da cidadania.
Boa noite a todos, bem-vindos. Meu nome é Paulo Gonzaga, sou professor da Escola de Direito de Negócios e Comunicação, sou professor de administração e também sou responsável pela assessoria internacional da PUC Goiás. Grande prazer estar aqui em mais esse webinário internacional, em parceria com a Universidade de Dayton, Ohio, nos Estados Unidos, e uma universidade com a qual nós acabamos de fazer uma parceria fantástica para vocês, um mestrado em Direito, 100% online, será oferecido pela Universidade de Dayton, com bolsa parcial para os nossos alunos, e ao final da palestra, a professora Margarete Ionides vai falar um pouco sobre esse mestrado aí, que já começa o ano que vem. Então, vocês fiquem atentos aí. E hoje é uma grande honra estar aqui com vocês. O tema do nosso webinário será a primeira emenda e a liberdade de religião, e esse webinário será apresentado pelo professor doutor Tony Kolenc. O professor Anthony Tony Kolenc é professor de Direito desde 2012, depois de servir mais de 21 anos na Força Aérea dos Estados Unidos. Ele se aposentou-se como tenente-coronel e, durante a sua carreira, ele litigou casos civis e criminais nos tribunais de julgamento e apelação, incluindo o Tribunal de Apelações para as Forças Armadas e o Tribunal de Apelações dos Estados Unidos para o 10º Circuito. Ele também lecionou na Academia da Força Aérea dos Estados Unidos, em Colorado Springs. O professor Kolenc recebeu o título de doutor em 1999 pela Universidade da Flórida. Ele é mestre em Teologia e Ministério Cristão pela Universidade Franciscana de Steubenville, e ele também lecionou várias disciplinas, incluindo liberdade religiosa, direito constitucional, evidências, delitos. Seus artigos se concentram em questões de direito constitucional e política militar, especialmente focado na liberdade de religião, e são publicados em vários periódicos de revistas acadêmicas nos Estados Unidos. Professor Kolenc, good evening and welcome to PUC Goiás. We're very happy to have you here tonight, and I'm sure you're going to address a very important topic tonight, not only here, but all over the world. Again, thanks a lot, and the word is yours.
Thank you. Thank you. Good day, everybody. I am Professor Tony Kolenc. As I just heard the beautiful introduction in a language I do not understand. Unfortunately, my only language is English. And so I hope your English is better than any other language in the world. So I must speak to you today in English, and I'm going to speak to you about the United States Constitution and the freedom of religion in the United States. And I thought, just to make it interesting, why don't we talk a little bit about the vaccine mandates for COVID-19 that are going on all around the world, but especially in the United States. And President Joe Biden is having problems attempting to make everybody take the vaccine. And one of the problems is the freedom of religion. And so what I thought we would do today is I would spend some time introducing you to the law of the United States, constitutional law about the First Amendment, freedom of religion, give you a little bit of background on that and why that's important, and then lead us into the discussion of COVID-19 and some of the issues that are coming up in the law today for the vaccine with freedom of religion. I will say to begin, I always like to say, you never know, you never care what somebody's going to say unless you know a little bit about them. So I like to give a little bit more information about myself, just so you have, a little more idea of who I am. As you heard, I was in the United States Air Force for 21 years. I retired in 2012. And when I was in the Air Force, I started as enlisted and was a firefighter. So you see my fire protection badge there. I hope I'm a better lawyer than I was a firefighter. That's all I can say. Eventually, I moved on to another job. I was in intelligence, And then the Air Force sent me to law school at the University of Florida. And after law school, I was an Air Force attorney. We call them a JAG. Got to do that for a long time until my retirement. I got to teach at the Air Force Academy. You could see the beautiful chapel of the Air Force Academy in Colorado Springs. That's the picture with the plane in it. I got to be in California, where we used to launch our West Coast satellites. And I got to do a lot of law in both trial law, court of appeals, criminal law, civil law, and even working with some freedom of religion cases that came up in the Air Force. That's my wife, Elisa, and my 5 children there. And one of my hobbies is I like to write. And so I actually have a trilogy of historical fiction books, and that's what you see is there too. So one of the other things I like to write are legal briefs for the United States Supreme Court. And it just so happens tomorrow in the United States, there's a big case that is being heard on abortion. And you may have seen something in the news. If you are looking at any news from the United States, that's all they're talking about now is this big case. Will the Supreme Court change the law on abortion? And I actually wrote a brief for the Supreme Court that was joined by 141 international legal scholars, including 12 of them from Brazil, from several different universities. I don't think anybody from yours, though. And we were taking the position that the Supreme Court should allow states to regulate abortion more. So a very Catholic position, which you might appreciate at your school. But okay, let me first set the stage by talking about why religion is so important all around the world, but especially at the founding of the United States, when even when we wrote our Declaration of Independence from England, when we were colonies in 1776, Thomas Jefferson, that's whose picture this is, wrote what we call our Declaration of Independence. And one of the things that we said in that document was this: we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, and among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And so even from our very first Declaration of Independence, we recognized that religion played an important part in our society. A lot of our values, our human rights, stem from religion, especially because our country came out of England. We have Christianity, and Western civilization has Christianity to thank for a lot of the human rights laws and values that we have. But religions from all over the world, all different kinds of religions, influence culture. And so religion is very important in all of our cultures, and it influences our society, it influences our laws. And as we also know, there's also a darker side to religion. It has also been the reason that some people have gone to war with each other over religious persecution. Some people have, our founders came to the United States to escape religious persecution in England. And so when we put together our country, one of the most important rights that our founders looked at was not only freedom of speech, so that we could speak and have the freedom to criticize our government and speak our minds on important issues, but also the freedom of religion. And they thought that was so important that it became the very first amendment to our Constitution in our Bill of Rights. Our very first right, individual right, is the freedom of religion. So John Adams, one of our second president of the United States, one of the founders, he explained the importance of religion this way. He said, the Constitution of the United States was written for a people who had morality and religion, and that in order for the Constitution to function, the people that it governed needed to be moral, ethical people. And they viewed religion as one way to really instill that morality in our people. And so, again, this was an important right. The United States Supreme Court, which has interpreted our Constitution many, many times since the founding, they discussed that, as you can see in this quote from the 1800s, they said that every constitution in all of the states, at that time we had 44 states, now we have 50, but every constitution in every one of our states recognizes a right to religion and understands how important religion is in all of human affairs. And so, without going on and on, you could see that the idea of freedom of religion was very important to the founding of our country, as it is all over the world, I know, and in your country too, I know. And so our very first amendment says, the very first sentence says, Congress, which is our national legislature, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. In other words, the free exercise of religion. And so the Constitution is the highest law in our land. In our United States government, the federal U.S. Constitution will trump every other law across the federal government and all the 50 states, all the 50 constitutions. All of them are less than the U.S. Constitution. So this is the top of the food chain, as they say, and our protection of religion. Now you can see there are two clauses in our Constitution dealing with religion. The first one we call the Establishment Clause. It's the one that says Congress shall not make a law establishing a religion. That's why we call it the Establishing Clause. And our founders were afraid that the federal government would create a national religion, and they knew that our country had many different types of religions represented in the people. And even though most of them were Christian, there were many different Christian religions: Protestant, Catholic, Baptist, Methodist, Presbyterian. They all, and of course, the way things work, we had many Catholics in one area, we had many Baptists in one area. And so different states had different protections for religion in their own states. And our founders did not want the federal government, like Congress or the president, declaring one single national religion. And so the Establishment Clause protects the people and the states from a federal national religion. You can see from this slide, out of the different colonies, we had 13 colonies to begin with when the country was founded that turned into our first 13 states. In every one of those states, they had some religion being supported by the state, and they were different denominations. They were all Christian, but they were different denominations. And over time, as you can see, the states stopped supporting religion with their own tax money. But you could see why we needed an Establishment Clause, because we had all the states having their own religions, and we didn't want the federal government coming in with trying to make one religion for the whole country. Now, the Supreme Court has been very important in interpreting the Establishment Clause. And over the last 200 years, especially in the last 50 years, or 75 years even, the Supreme Court has gotten much more strict in what the states and the federal government can do in supporting religion. The court is concerned that if we spend tax dollars on religion, that it will start leading to the establishment of religion, which the Constitution forbids. The court is also aware, however, that there are many symbols of religion that are part of our culture and our society. So even in the Supreme Court, if you look inside their building, you will see symbols of religion, Moses with the 10 Commandments, and things like that. Our Pledge of Allegiance, one of our national pledges, talks about one nation under God. Our money says, "In God we trust." And so the Supreme Court realizes that religion is an important part of our culture, but at the same time, the government cannot create a state-supported religion. And so there's been a lot of cases that the court has had to decide, even about such things as Christmas and whether a city could put up a Christmas display with baby Jesus in the manger, a nativity creche, and whether that would be permitted or not under the Constitution. So the court has been very involved in all of these cases. So that is the Establishment Clause. And the principles that come out of the Establishment Clause tell us that government must be neutral to religion. They cannot try to set up a church. They cannot try to punish people for their religious beliefs. They cannot stop people from practicing their religion. But there are some things the government can do. They can, obviously provide some benefits to religious organizations as long as they're doing it in a neutral way. So if we're going to give money to daycare centers to take care of children, then it's okay for the government to give money even if the daycare center is run by a church. That's okay as long as everybody has, the availability of the money. All right, so that is the Establishment Clause. When we come to Biden and vaccine and COVID-19, we're not going to be talking about the Establishment Clause very much at all because it doesn't really play into this question of whether the government can force people to take a vaccine, because that's not the establishment of religion. The clause that really is going to come into play is the other religion clause. We call it the Free Exercise Clause. And it's the part that says Congress shall make no law prohibiting the free exercise of religion. And as you know, religious people of all kinds have many different beliefs from many different, cultures and religions. And some people do not feel comfortable in their religion eating pork, or some people have to dress a certain way. They have to cover their head in church or even cover their head when they're in public. And some people do not do blood transfusions because that goes against the religion. And some people might not want a vaccine because it goes against their religion. And so there are many different religious practices. Abortion, like I was talking about earlier, as you know, the Catholic Church has a very strong position against abortion. And so people who are against abortion would not want to take a vaccine that was made from aborted fetuses, for instance. That might violate their freedom of religion in their conscience. And so those are the types of topics that come up when we talk about the free exercise of religion, because we want to protect religion from the government. We want to protect the free exercise of our religion from the government making rules that make our religious practice illegal or penalized in some way. And so the way the Constitution is written, The government should allow people to practice their faith no matter what their faith. Muslim, Jewish, Catholic, Christian, Seventh-day Adventist, Hindu, Buddhist, it doesn't matter. Everyone should be free to practice their religion. Now, as you know, this could lead to other issues because sometimes the practice of one person's religion could come into conflict with criminal law. For instance, what if your religion, some of our native indigenous tribes believe that the ingestion of a drug named peyote is a sacred drug that they use as part of their sacramental religious services. But peyote was also an illegal drug. It was punishable by jail time to use peyote because it was a Schedule I controlled substance, part of our drug laws. So what if you would belong to the religion that wants to use peyote, but the government says you're not allowed to use peyote because it's a violation of our drug laws? These are the kinds of conflicts that sometimes happen. And if we're trying to allow people to practice their religion, we also have to recognize sometimes the practice of their religion might violate some other general law that is put in place for a very good reason, to protect society or some other valid state interest. So this became a problem, and this became an issue that the United States Supreme Court had to handle when interpreting the Free Exercise Clause of the United States Constitution. Because we know that on the one hand, in the words of Jesus even, give to Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God. In other words, we must follow our own religion and our own conscience, but at the same time, we must give to our government the loyalty, the taxes, or whatever it is that government requires of us. And if it's possible to, respect both our religion and our law, that would be the best thing. But sometimes it's not possible. Sometimes practicing our religion would put us in violation of the law. And practicing the law would put us in violation of our conscience. And these are the very difficult cases. This is the cases where COVID-19 and the vaccine mandate are going to come into play. Now, there are many different cases that the Supreme Court has used to talk about the free exercise of religion. But one thing the court has said is that when we protect religion, we are protecting some sort of religious belief. We are not protecting secular values or secular philosophy. The Constitution was set up to protect a religious type of belief as, from oppression. So just because somebody says, for instance, well, I don't like the mandate because, I think vaccines are stupid, or I think my philosophy says that, when you get stuck with a needle, it hurts and we shouldn't cause pain. And so, I don't want to take the vaccine for that reason. Those are not religious-based reasons. And so you would not be able to say that the freedom of religion protects you from those beliefs. So your belief has to do with, if you're against the vaccine, it has to be tied back to your religion if you want to seek the protection of the free exercise clause. And we know that, again, that many times if you want to stand up for something that you believe in, whether it's your religious beliefs or some other important belief you hold dear to your heart, that will sometimes cause you to come in conflict with government, because sometimes the government is not just. Sometimes a law is not ethical. And if your conscience tells you that the law is wrong, and that this is one of the issues with abortion, right? The The law allows abortion, but for many people, their religion tells them that the abortion is taking away a human life, and they cannot contribute to abortion in any way. And so there will be conflict. And how do we resolve that conflict? Well, the Supreme Court in 1990 had a very controversial case. It was involving what I just talked about a few minutes ago, peyote use by Native Americans who were using peyote for sacramental religious purposes. And they were fired from their jobs because they tested positive for an illegal drug. And when they filed for unemployment benefits to try to get some money while they were looking for a new job, they were denied unemployment benefits because they were fired for illegal drug use. And they said, well, you cannot deny me benefits because I was fired because of my religion. My religion says I am allowed to use peyote as part of a sacrament. And the government should not take away my unemployment benefits because of that. And so the Supreme Court had to look very closely, and they were very concerned that if they required too much from the government, that there would be anarchy. Nobody would follow any laws. Everybody would just say, oh, it's against my religion to follow this law and that law and the other law. And so the Supreme Court was worried that if they make the protection of religion too strong, that nobody will have to follow any laws. And this is also some of the concern we have today with the vaccine mandate. People might say, well, I don't want to take the vaccine because it's against my religion. And other people are worried that if we let one person not take the vaccine, everybody might just say, oh, well, it's against my religion too. And then that would be bad for society. So that's the same concern. And so in this case, Employment Division versus Smith in 1990, the Supreme Court said, if a law is neutral, if it applies to everybody and it is not intended to harm religion, it does not discriminate against religion, then we are not going to hold it up to too strict of a scrutiny. In other words, as long as the law is rational, if it has some rational basis, we will uphold the law even if it conflicts with your religious beliefs. Now, if the law is not neutral, if the law discriminates against religion, then the Supreme Court said the courts must hold that law up to the strictest scrutiny possible. And if the law conflicts with religion, then the law could be struck down because it discriminates against religion. And so they set up this distinction. A neutral law doesn't get very much scrutiny by the court at all. It just needs to be reasonable or rational. But a law that discriminates gets very strict scrutiny, and it is almost impossible for that law to survive, and that law will probably be struck down. So what that means, though, is in a case like this with vaccine mandates, if the Biden administration says everybody must take the vaccine regardless of your religion, we're applying this to everybody. It has nothing to do with religion. It just has to do with public safety. The Supreme Court, using this decision, might only apply rational basis review, which is not very difficult to survive if you are a law. And so in that scenario, it's very possible the laws, a vaccine mandate could be enforced against people, even if it violated their religious beliefs. Now, there are some members of the Supreme Court who do not like the Smith case. And in fact, it may be that one day the Supreme Court overturns the Smith case, but not yet. They have not done so yet. And so this is still the way the law reads in the way we interpret the Constitution. If it's a neutral law, it gets rational basis review. If it's a non-neutral law that discriminates against religion, it gets strict scrutiny review. That's the way the law reads today. Well, after the Smith case, people in Congress were very unhappy with the United States Supreme Court because they were concerned that the court was not protecting religion the way the founders wanted to protect religion. And so they passed a law. And the law applies to the entire federal government, including the military, including the White House, including Congress. And that law is called the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. It was passed because Congress did not think the Supreme Court was protecting religion enough after the Smith case. And so what that law says is if the federal government is going to burden somebody's religion, the exercise of religion, then the government must have a compelling reason to do it. We call that a compelling government interest or a compelling interest. It has to be a very, very, very important reason to burden somebody's religion, and the government must use the least restrictive way to achieve their interest. So it's a very strict test. In fact, we would call this strict scrutiny. So what does this mean? It means that because of this law, RFRA, the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, anything that President Biden does with regard to the vaccine mandate will actually be subjected to strict scrutiny under RFRA. So even if the First Amendment will not protect people from the vaccine mandate, it may be that RFRA will protect them. And that's where it gets interesting, because the Supreme Court has interpreted RFRA a few times recently in the Hobby Lobby case, which dealt with President Obama's mandate about abortion and contraception coverage by insurance companies, and also in Holt v. Hobbs, which involved a Muslim prisoner who wanted to grow a beard, and the jail would not let him grow a beard, even though it was part of his religious practice. And in both of those cases, the Supreme Court said RFRA requires strict scrutiny, and the government has not shown that this is the least restrictive way to accomplish a compelling interest. And so the government lost both cases. All right, so that is our setup, because after RFRA, we know now in cases involving the military that the government has to have a compelling reason and do it in the least restrictive way. And in cases involving federal agencies such as what we call OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Agency, they pass a lot of regulations for businesses and safety in the workplace, OSHA. We have a lot of regulations for safety in the workplace passed by OSHA. But it's a federal agency, and RFRA, the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, applies to OSHA. So why does any of this matter? Well, here's why. As you know, COVID-19 happened, and we have many, many hundreds of thousands of people who have died, and millions of people who have been hospitalized and impacted by this pandemic. And our governments have been trying to come up with different rules to try to protect society from the pandemic. And one of those rules involved, of course, developing a vaccine that would help to protect people from the virus and that would limit the spread of the virus. And in fact, that's what happened. They developed a vaccine. It's not perfect. It's a little bit controversial. Some people say it is not as effective. Some people are suspicious. There's a lot of conspiracy theories about the vaccine, but the vaccine is supposed to be medically effective, and it's supposed to be able to help people to stay out of the hospital if they get COVID, and it's supposed to prevent passing the virus between people more freely. It's supposed to limit that. So if that's all true, it's very good for society to have a vaccine that will protect society from these things. The problem is not everybody wants to take the vaccine. And the other problem is we have seen some religious discrimination in the United States around COVID-19. Well, what kind of discrimination? There were 2 cases this year that the United States Supreme Court decided under the First Amendment free exercise clause. One involved Governor Cuomo from New York. He is the one on the left sitting down. He's no longer the governor of New York. You may have heard he had to resign because of sexual misconduct that he did towards some women. So he's no longer the governor, but he was the governor when the Supreme Court heard this case. The other man is Governor Newsom from California. So 2 very important states. And the Supreme Court said both of those states had discriminated against religion and against churches in the rules they made when they shut down all the businesses and all the groups during COVID in 2020. I don't know what it was like in your country, but in our country, the government all around the United States shut businesses down and told people that there were certain types of businesses that would not function during, the pandemic in order to keep people home and to try to avoid people being together in public, spreading the pandemic, the virus. The problem is the rules that they used for churches were different than the rules they used for other businesses. And the Supreme Court said, you're not allowed to discriminate against churches this way. If you allow some businesses to stay open, then you need to allow the churches to stay open too. Because in California, they put a rule in place that was so strict, you were not allowed to have any church services. And the Supreme Court said, well, that doesn't make any sense because you're allowed to go to certain stores. You're allowed to go to different places. Certain businesses were allowed to operate, but no churches were allowed to operate. And they said that was discrimination. And under the First Amendment, if the law is not neutral, it gets strict scrutiny. And so they struck down both California and New York's rules shutting down some churches over COVID-19. And that was before we had a vaccine. Now we have the vaccine. And so now President Biden has said he wants everybody to take the vaccine. And he has told everybody in the military they need to take the vaccine, otherwise they're going to be separated from the military. And they have not granted any exemptions for religion. And OSHA, the group I told you about earlier, has made rules that President Biden has put in place to say if you are a business with more than 100 employees, you must force your employees all to get the vaccine. And so there have been many cases now that have been brought to court challenging these mandates as being unconstitutional for several reasons. But one of those reasons is because of religion. And if they are not granting exemptions to religious people, but they are granting exemptions to non-religious people, then we might have another problem with discrimination against religion under the First Amendment and also under RFRA, the Religious Freedom Restoration Act, because RFRA applies to both the military and to OSHA. So strict scrutiny would apply. So the other, not very long ago, just the other week, one of our big courts in Texas, the Fifth Circuit, actually granted an injunction putting on hold the OSHA vaccine mandate. And one of the things, now they put it on hold for several reasons, but one of the reasons they mentioned was that there could be a violation of religious exercise. And notice the case that they cited to was not only the First Amendment, freedom of religion, but also Holt v. Hobbs, which is the RFRA case I told you about with the Muslim prisoner. And so the Fifth Circuit is saying that you need to be focused on people's religious liberty when it comes to these vaccines. And very recently, just about 2 weeks ago, a group of military members have sued the military, saying that the President Biden vaccine mandate against the military is also a violation of RFRA because nobody is being granted religious exemptions, and people are being discharged from the military simply because their religion does not allow them to get the vaccine. And but other people, for medical reasons, are getting exemptions. I think this is going to be a problem under RFRA, under both not only OSHA, but under these military vaccine mandates. So we will see what happens. These cases are going on right now. This is the complaint from the military, but one of the things they allege in here is a violation of RFRA, and they allege that the military members are being treated differently, whether they're religious or whether they are not religious. So this is very interesting. We'll see how this develops over time. But I wanted to lay out all that for you and then see what kinds of questions you might have. I don't know whether the vaccine mandates will ultimately be struck down, but I do think right now there is a strong chance that there will be problems for the Biden administration unless they give exemptions to religious members who cannot take the vaccine because of their sincerely held religious belief. Okay, so it's been about 40 minutes, and I promised that I would stop talking after 40 minutes and answer some questions before our next section. And I don't know how it works with the technology. If somebody does have a question, I think somebody might need to give them the ability to ask that question.
Okay, thanks a lot, Dr. Kolink. I think we have no questions. Let me check with chat here. Okay, no questions, Dr. Kolink, but I have one for you. Actually, it was very interesting the way you addressed the topic, and I had some doubt in my mind. Our president, Brazilian president, and since he's the president, he can nominate a judge for the Supreme Court when we have a retirement there, okay? And since he got to the office, he's saying that his dream is to nominate a, quote, terribly Christian judge, okay? In your opinion, is he exercising the power of freedom of religion?
Well, and I cannot speak to what your local, your constitution in your country may or may not allow. What I can say is we have similar issues that come up when our president nominates people to the Supreme Court. You may recall we had several very contentious Supreme Court nominations under President Trump. And a few of the justices who were nominated, especially the most recent one, Amy Coney Barrett, was being attacked by some of the senators who interviewed her because she was actually a very strong Catholic. And they were concerned about the same thing I think that you are concerned about, that she would somehow use her own personal religious beliefs to change or interpret the Constitution. Now, she, of course, said that she would not do that, and we're not allowed to disqualify people from service as a Supreme Court justice just because they may be, as you might say, terribly Christian. As long as they can take their terribly Christian beliefs and make sure that they are going to interpret the law in light of the Constitution and the traditions of the country, it doesn't matter if they're Christian, Jewish, Muslim. It doesn't matter if they are atheists, if they are very practicing or not practicing. Now, I think what I hear you saying, though, is there's a concern that if you were to pack your courts with justices who were very Christian and who were not going to respect the religious beliefs of other religions, that you might have a problem with freedom of religion. And I would agree that would be a problem. But recognize, even in our own country, the court has been very protective of religions of all types, even though there have been times in our country, most of our country's history, the court has been entirely made up of Christians, and sometimes entirely made up of Protestant Christians. Right now, we have maybe 5 or 6 Catholics on the court, which is unusual. We have so many Catholics on the court, but that doesn't mean that those Catholics are going to vote whatever the Catholic Church beliefs are. Tomorrow, we're going to have a big case on abortion, and I guarantee you that there will be some Catholic, justices who probably will vote in favor of abortion. So I hear your concern, and I think you are right to be concerned about any time we try to put people on a court in the hopes that they're going to, just represent one point of view, whether it's religion or politics. That is a concern, and I think that is right to keep an eye on that, though.
Okay, thanks a lot, Professor. I have one question for you. It comes from Lucas. He's asking you, in your opinion, can a company fire an employee who doesn't want to get vaccinated?
So if it's a company, that means it's not the government. It's a private business. And everything I just told you in this brief does not apply to private businesses. It applies to the government. Our founders of our country, when they passed the Constitution, they were trying to protect the people from the tyranny of government. And so all of our First Amendment freedoms protect us from government oppression. They don't protect us, for instance, from Facebook or Twitter. And if Facebook decides, as they have, to censor certain points of view that they don't like, the First Amendment does not apply to Facebook. Facebook is a private company. So Facebook can get away with doing things in censorship that the United States government could not get away with if it was the military censoring or something like that. So to answer your question, in the United States, neither RFRA nor the First Amendment would protect an employee from being fired by their company because they didn't take the vaccine. Now, I will say this. We also have laws that have been passed to protect individuals from private businesses discriminating against their religion. And they may have a case under some of those employment labor laws of religious discrimination. Those cases we have yet to litigate. But I do share that concern also, that I don't believe that private companies should be able to just fire people who have a genuine, sincere belief not to take a vaccine. Just like you wouldn't fire them if they said they needed to wear a hijab to work. So that would be my opinion.
Okay, thanks a lot, Professor. It's not a question, but one of our participants wrote, I found the lecture very enlightening. It really is a very pertinent debate today to know how far we can legally interfere in the beliefs of the other for the benefit of all, as now in the pandemic. So she thanks you. I agree with her.
Thank you.
Nice. Thank you. Well, I think no more questions, Professor. I just have to thank you so much for being here, for your lecture today. Actually, a lot of information, new information, and I think you taught us a lot tonight. And I just don't have words to express our gratitude for you to be here.
Thank you, and
thank you so much.
I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to speak with your distinguished group of students tonight. So thank you.
Thanks a lot, and I hope you'll come back next year. Ok. Agora, pessoal, eu gostaria de chamar a professora doutora Margarete Ionides. Ela é responsável pelo programa de mestrado na Universidade de Dayton e falar mais sobre essa parceria, um mestrado que vocês, nossos alunos, podem fazer online. E o mais importante, concluindo esse mestrado na Universidade de Dayton, vocês podem prestar o exame da ordem no estado de Washington ou da Califórnia. Então, gostaria de passar a palavra para a doutora Margarete Ionides para algumas informações gerais sobre o mestrado. Margaret, thank you so much for being here with us again.
Thank you, Paulo. It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Tony, once again, an outstanding presentation, and there are more positive comments coming in through the chat, so thank you very much, Laura. I just saw your comment as well. Professor Koling actually teaches the constitutional law course in our online LLM program, and we're actually planning to offer that course in May. He's also taught the professional responsibility course in the program as well. So if you were interested in the First Amendment, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, all of these great concepts are covered in the constitutional law course. Now, I wonder if you are able to see my PowerPoint slide deck as well. Is that appearing or no?
Not yet. Yes.
Yes?
Yes, we can see it.
It is showing. Okay, perfect. Well, I'm going to go ahead and start presenting. I know I've had the opportunity to present a few times already. For those of you who haven't had the opportunity to meet me, I'm Margaret Ionides, the program director for the online LLM program at University of Dayton School of Law. As Paulo has mentioned, we are very excited about the partnership that we have with PUC Goiás. I know we are at the end of our presentation tonight, so I promise I won't take more than 5 minutes. I'll just give a little bit of an overview about our online LLM program and share some of the highlights about our partnership. So as background, University of Dayton School of Law has a rich history, much like PUC Goiás. We were founded in 1850, and the university is located in Dayton, Ohio, which is in the Midwest in the United States. Historically, students would be able to come on campus and complete the LLM degree in Dayton, Ohio, but starting in 2019, we began to offer a fully online option as well. So students are now able to obtain the same LLM degree in American and transnational law, and they're able to do it fully online and in an asynchronous format. By using this technology and the online platform, we really have been able to expand access to the program and to make it much more affordable for students from all over the world. We have about 80 students in the program right now, representing over 30 countries. And we have a very large number of students, I think about 15 right now that are in the program that are from Brazil. The curriculum for our online LLM is focused on US law and legal practice. Because of the focus on U.S. law, most students in the program are foreign educated law school graduates. The reason is because most U.S. law school graduates would have taken these courses as part of their first degree in law studies. And the first degree in law in the U.S. is a Juris Doctor degree. The online LLM curriculum consists of 12 courses, that's 30 credits, and we operate year-round on a semester basis. Our next semester begins on January 6th. The one after that begins in May, and then our fall semester begins in August. The whole program can be completed within 1 year, but students can take up to 3 years to complete the program. So the partnership highlights. Through the partnership with PUC Goiás, we are able to offer several unique benefits. One of which is for those of you pursuing your bachelor's in law degree, you are able to start your LLM earlier than other students, and specifically, you can start your LLM during your 8th semester of your Bachelor of Laws study. That means that you are potentially able to earn both your law degree from Brazil as well as your LLM degree concurrently or within a short amount of time from each other. For those of you who have already graduated and received your bachelor's degree in law from PUC Goiás, you are eligible as an alumnus to earn credit recognition towards the LLM degree. So whether you are a current bachelor student or a graduate of the program, you are able to earn your LLM degree with only 8 courses rather than 12. And again, for those of you who are pursuing the bachelor's degree, you are able to get a head start on your LLM studies. Now, for those of you who are working towards your bachelor's degree, we've reviewed your curriculum and we've identified courses that correspond to LLM courses, and we're able to provide up to 10 credits towards the LLM degree. Again, you'd have to meet the grade requirement for PUC Goiás. For those of you who have already graduated, you don't need to go through the transfer credit process. You are able to get 10 credits applied automatically as advanced standing towards the LLM degree. In addition, we're able to offer a guaranteed scholarship that reduces by over 70% the published tuition rate for the LLM program. So combining the credit recognition that is available through this partnership, as well as the per credit guaranteed scholarship, you are able to complete the full LLM degree for approximately $9,500 US. And that is paid over the course of your studies. So if you complete within 3 semesters, this would be split into 3 payments each semester. If you take longer than that, then the payment would be extended as well. These are the courses in our curriculum. You'll see 10 of the 12 courses focus on legal doctrine. They're single bar tested subjects. The other 2 courses focus on skills development. All students have to complete those 5 courses designated in green font. You're then able to select the balance of credits through the elective courses. We do operate, as I mentioned, year-round, fully online in an asynchronous format, and our curriculum is aligned with the current requirements for both the Washington and California state bar exams. So if that is something of interest for you, you can potentially obtain that dual licensure in the United States. This is just a snapshot of our learning management system. We do have mandatory midterm and final exams. Together, those comprise 70 to 80% of your final grade in the course. Again, these are just snapshots from our courses. Even though the program is asynchronous, we do offer opportunities for live interaction, including weekly office hours with your professors and at least 4 live sessions per class per semester. I mentioned the guaranteed scholarship and the tuition for the program. Included with that would be free reading materials, free career counseling services, and free supplemental study guides and online library resources. So just to wrap up, if anyone is interested in applying, whether for the upcoming semester that begins in January or the following semester beginning in May, I'd encourage you to visit a special website page that we have set up that includes the application and application instructions. And you can also request additional information there. Our deadline for the next semester is December 1st, and I would encourage anyone who's interested in applying, please visit our website, reach out to me, reach out to my colleague, Walter Hawes, and we would be happy to help you and answer any questions about the program. So with that said, I think maybe I went 10 minutes instead of 5, but I tried to go as quickly as I could. Happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Margaret. That was fine. You were perfectly on time. Ok, pessoal, vocês teriam alguma pergunta sobre o programa de mestrado, né, na Universidade de Dayton, no Ohio, e que a professora Margarete acabou de explicar, né? Então, são 30 créditos e eles identificaram 10 créditos de disciplinas que poderão ser cursadas aqui na PUC. Então, se vocês puderem aproveitar esses créditos, né? Então, seria um mestrado de 20 créditos, né? Que poderá ser completado e aí até 3 anos e com bolsa parcial para os nossos alunos e com a grande possibilidade que após a conclusão do curso, vocês poderão prestar o exame da ordem, né? O BAR, nos estados da Califórnia ou de Washington. Então, uma grande oportunidade aí que essa parceria traz. E se vocês tiverem perguntas, pessoal, estamos à disposição, eu e a professora Margaret.
Paulo, I just put into the chat, I don't know if this is available for the audience, but it is the link for the landing page that we've set up that has the application and additional information about the partnership. So,
oh yes, thanks. I did it too. Okay,
perfect.
So yes, we can see it, and also I wrote my email address. That if they have questions, tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, they can contact me. And okay, I think we got a question, Margaret, from Laura Barbosa. It's in English. Can you read it?
Yes.
Okay.
Perfect. So, Laura, yes, we'd love to talk with your sister. So please feel free to share the information with her as well. Include my contact information, and I'd be happy to visit with her. So, thank you.
Okay. Thanks. Any more questions, students?
And I will just add, whether for Laura's sister or for anyone else who's joining, if you haven't reached that point in your studies yet that you're eligible to apply for the admission, but if you think you might be interested, I'd encourage you to, work on your English proficiency skills. So that way, when you are ready to apply, you've got the English proficiency. I'd also encourage you to join us, not only for the webinars that we host exclusively with PUC Goiás, but also those that we organize at a program level. We had a law and technology series. We'll be starting up again with events in the spring semester. So we'll be sharing that information as well. We encourage you to be a part of our learning community.
Okay. Thank you so much, Margaret. I think we don't have any more questions, but I would like to thank you again for being here with us. Actually, it's been a great year, talking to you and Walter and everything else. And just to tell you once again that PUC Goiás is very happy with this partnership. And I hope it lasts for a long time, Margaret. And I hope to see you next time soon. Okay?
Thank you, Paulo.
Laura is asking, Margaret, before, where can I find the link? It's in the chat, Laura. If you go up a little bit in the chat, okay, I wrote down my email address, okay, and also the link where you can find information directly from University of Dayton, okay?
Perfect. Thank you, Paulo, and I hope the partnership continues for a long time as well.
Yes, me
I can
too.
speak on behalf of Walter and everyone at University of Dayton. We have really enjoyed having the opportunity to work with you. We've already been visiting with some of the PUC-Goiás students, and so we've enjoyed having that opportunity as well. And I know it's 2 hours ahead for us, so it's a little bit later in Brazil, I mean, for you. So I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful evening, and we really appreciate that you stayed on, late into the evening to meet with us.
Thank you so much, Margaret, and it's been great working with you and Walter also. Please say hi to him, and hope to see you soon. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Okay.
And Tony, if you're still...
Muitíssimo obrigado a todos. E qualquer dúvida, pessoal, ou questões, por favor, e-mail ari@pucgoias.edu.br, que eu possa encaminhar vocês a Margaret ou o Walter, ou o link aí das informações. Mas é uma grande oportunidade e uma grande parceria com a Universidade de Dayton. Tenham uma boa noite e muito obrigado a todas. Professor Tony, thank you so much again. It was great.
Thank you. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thank you for having me. And Margaret, thanks for the invitation. I'm glad to do these wonderful presentations for you guys.
Well, it won't be the last one, Tony, so you'll be back again. We'll have an encore.
We're going to work hard next year, right?
That's right.
You know, what I work hard once a year. This will be the one day.
Okay. Thank you both so much and have a nice evening. And it was great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. It was nice to meet you too. Very good.
Bye-bye, Professor.
Take care. Bye-bye.